All right, everybody, how's it going? Great to see you. Thank you for coming out tonight. It's Tuesday evening, and I appreciate you giving some time this evening to spend with me. And I'm excited to bring this opportunity to you in what we call Cash Flow February. And I'm not going to say a whole lot other than to introduce myself. In case you don't know who I am, I'm Roger Blankenship. I'm the host of the radio show Flipping America, which is also a podcast. You can find it on any podcast platform out there. Plus, you can download the free app from the App Store and listen to the show right from your phone in our app. The advantage of our app is you get access to the show notes, so you get kind of a behind-the-scenes look at what goes into the preparation for each show. I've been flipping houses since 2002, full-time since 2006. In that time, I've flipped just over 1,000 houses and done right at another 1,000 transactions, rental houses and buying for foreign investors and that sort of thing. I've been involved in a lot of real estate over the years, and I discovered something a year and a half ago. I was introduced to it, a technique that I did not know and stepped into a little carefully at first, but then just went after it with full force, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We call it the Bohr Method, and I call it the Bohr Method because I was doing the Bohr Method long before it had a name, and so I figured if this is going to get a name someday, I want to be the one to name it. So we call it the Bohr Method. All right, let's see now if I've got this thing lined up so we're in the frame. There you go. We're going to be talking about a club tonight, the Flipping America Buyers Club. You've probably already seen that, and I'm going to describe for you what the club does and what it offers to you and encourage you to join. Now, I hope before you get off the call tonight that you will join the club. That is the so-called call to action. All right. We got into real estate because eventually we want to just live free. And financially free to me means your passive income, the mailbox money, pays all your bills. Then you can take a month off or 3 months off or the rest of your life off and still have your lifestyle paid for. That's what we want to get to, financial freedom. And I want you to know that passive investing is kind of a sliding scale. Some things are more passive than others. Some things you can do with just a little bit of money or a lot of money and no time. Some take a little bit of time. That's true whether you're in real estate or in the stock market. I've got this little chart here, and the yellow stuff is real estate and the green stuff are stocks, things you do with the stock market. And it's a chart that goes from active to passive. And on the far left, you see that's the most active stuff, and on the far right's the most passive stuff. So on the far left, you've got flipping houses and day trading. Then a little less active is wholesaling and short-term rentals, and right in there, regular stock investors. And then you get more toward the passive side, and you've got 401k and real estate investment trust, buying shares in that. Those are there's as passive as they get. What we're talking about tonight is the Bohr, the B-O-R. And you can see that it's mostly passive. You can be active if you want to, or you can also make it completely passive if you want to. And here's what the Bohr method is. It's buy with cash, owner finance, and repeat. Simple as that. Buy, owner finance, and repeat. I've got pictures of houses here that I've bought in the program. They're going to show up through all the slides here, and I'm not going to really call your attention to them. And honestly, the prices have been going up since we haven't been doing a lot of foreclosures over the past 12 months. We hope that prices will go down, but it probably won't happen for another 6 to 8 months or so. We're still buying prices at a great deal, and we still make them work financially, but you don't see much for $5,500 anymore. I bought this house in, let's see, that one's in Pennsylvania. I bought that for $5,500. And I want to do a little comparison here between the Bohr method and some of the methods that you may be more familiar with, such as flipping houses or rental houses. And I didn't ask this before we got started, but I'm assuming that everyone can hear me. Can someone just put in the chat that you can hear me okay? I'm not even looking at the chat. If you'll put in the chat that you can hear me, I would appreciate it. Otherwise, okay, thank you so much. And also I want to point out, if you've got questions as we go along, then put them in the Q&A tab, because I've got that open right over there, and I will see it. I'll see the questions pop up. I probably won't answer them until I get to the end of the presentation, but I will answer any question you have and all of the questions that you have as long as you want. All right, let's move on. Flipping houses. I'm a flipping house guy. I flipped a lot of houses. I still flip houses. I enjoy flipping houses, and I like making them into something that they can become. And more than that, I've discovered I really like making the money that I can make from flipping houses. Here's a typical flip house. Bought for $114,000, sold for $277,000. In between, spent a lot of money on rehab and 11 months getting this thing into picture perfect condition. $197,000 out of pocket and a $50,000 net profit. Now, when I look at this deal on the surface, this looks like a fine deal, right in the wheelhouse of something that I would do. I still sign up for projects like this and love doing it. Here's a rental house. In earlier days in my career, my whole passion was to flip 3 houses and then use the profits from that to buy 1 rental house. And I still like it. I still like rental houses, but I think I like the Bohr houses a little bit better for reasons that I'm going to share with you in just a minute. All right. So here's a typical rental house in flyover country in America. You buy this house for $100,000. You spend a few hours a month managing the house or managing your manager if that's what you do. You're going to be out of pocket if you finance it for about $25,000. $20,000 for the down payment, maybe $5,000 or so for the initial fix up to make it rent ready. And if everything goes well, you can expect to net maybe $250 a month. I want you to remember $25,000 out of pocket and $250 a month. Remember those numbers, because here comes a typical Bohr house. This little beauty is in a little town called Deepwater, West Virginia. And notice it comes with a gorgeous mountain view and a swimming pool. That's right, and we left the pool there. No, I have never been to Deepwater, West Virginia, and I don't really intend to go. But this house is a house that's in the program, and I'm cashing in on it every month like this. Now, I don't spend any time with this house other than to acknowledge receipt of the payment every month. So that turns out to be a few hours per year. $9,300 is my complete expense to buy the house, to pay for the closing costs, to put the sign in the yard, change the locks, and do the marketing that we do. All right? I am netting $500 a month for the next 8 years, and I didn't turn my phone on silent. So I'm going to do that right now. All right, so $500 a month for the next 8 years. Here's another one. Now, I don't mean to pick on West Virginia. It just happens that this one is in West Virginia. What I did do is I went through my properties and I looked at some that were maybe not quite as attractive. And this house right here, this one is in Glen Fork, West Virginia. I would never buy this house as a rental or a flip. The numbers were no good for a flip. And this is not the kind of house that I want in my rental inventory. It has a lot of potential problems and a lot of maintenance and no driveway. I mean, you know, that uphill patch of rock that you have there behind the fence. I wouldn't do that. And I wouldn't want a rental property in a lot of these towns where I buy these houses. I'd say that because this is not really so much investing in the real estate, it's investing in the cash flow. Here's what happens. A few hours a year, $9,700 out of pocket, $450 a month, comes in like clockwork. And for 7 years, this couple moved in there. They both get disability checks from federal government. It goes into their checking account, and their checking account automatically issues the payment check just like that, automatic every month. They fixed the house to their content because that's part of this deal, and I'll get into that in a little while, in a few minutes. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's an incredible return, Roger, and you're right. That is an incredible return. But when I first started thinking about this, I was actually doing the math wrong, and I thought it through, and I want to make sure that you understand the correct way to do the math. And the reason is I did the calculation like you do a cash-on-cash return for a rental. You can't do it that way because these people are actually buying these houses and they're paying them off. So what you really have to do is take your total profit over your investment divided by the number of years. Here's what it looks like. You take your total income over the years and you subtract all your expenses. That's the cost to purchase locks and signs and anything else that you might do. That yields your net profit. And then you divide that by your cost that you have in the property, and you divide that number by the years that you owned it, and you end up with the average annual return. And I'm going to abbreviate that AAR for the rest of this conversation. Okay? Let's go back to Glen Fork, West Virginia. This beautiful town doesn't even have a stop sign or a traffic light. It's really just a village. It doesn't have a gas station, doesn't have a bank, it doesn't have a restaurant. You have to, or a grocery store. I don't really even know what this town has. You have to drive 15 minutes in one direction and 20 minutes in another direction to get to anything. So it's out in the middle of nowhere. But as I said, I've got good people in there who are paying just great. It works out great. So $450 a month times 12 times 7, that's $39,800 we will receive on this house. Now that's not the purchase price. There's also some interest in there the way we calculate this. Plus the $2,000 that they gave as a down payment, that's $41,800 over the next 7 years. All right. We subtract out our $9,700 in cost, and that's $32,000, $32,100 in net profit. We divide that by, we divide 32,100 divided by 9,700, and that gives us 331%. Well, that doesn't really tell us a whole lot. We have to divide that by the number of years in this program, and that's 7, and that ends up with a 47.28 average annual return. Now, I put some thought into this, and I'm thinking, where else am I going to make 50% on the money? Well, I make 50% on the money sometimes in flips, but there's a lot more work and a lot more effort and a lot more risk than these houses. I can't really match this anywhere else I go. And come on, if you think about it, what can you do in real estate to make 47% return? What can you do in real estate to consistently make 25% return? Well, I found some things that I can do to consistently make 15 to 20% return, but 25, 30, and 40%, no, it's this. Okay, here's another house. I'm just going to run through several examples now and show you some houses. And I've got a reason for this. You'll see in just a few moments. This one's in Arkansas, $12,000 out of pocket, $650 a month. The fair market rent on this property in this town would be $1,000. $650 a month is a steal. 8 years, 56.5% average annual return. Iowa, $21,000 out of pocket, $685 a month for 10 years, 31% return. This one's in Illinois. $19,000 out of pocket, $625 a month, 10 years, 31% average annual return. What I'm trying to do with these is I'm trying to get them to 30% if I can. Some of them fall a little less, like this one in Maine, but I try to get them to 30%. But you know what? I'm glad to make 25, 26%, right? $600 a month, 10 years, 26% average annual return. This one is in Michigan, and it's $15,000 out of pocket, $575 a month for 10 years, 38% return. This one also is in Michigan, $18,500 out of pocket, $595 a month, 10 years, 30% average annual return. This one is in Pennsylvania, and this one kind of went out in the email earlier today. Some of you may have received. $14,000 out of pocket, sold to a club member just this week, $550 a month, 10 years, 30% average annual return. This one is in Pennsylvania. $14,500 out of pocket, $600 a month, 10 years, 41% average annual return. This one is in Georgia. $24,500 out of pocket, $750 a month, 10 years, 28% average annual return. We've only had a couple of these houses in Georgia. I know that some of you on the call right now are in Georgia, and you're probably wondering. This one's in Illinois. $17,500 out of pocket, $700 a month, 10 years, 39% average annual return. Another one in Illinois, $13,500 out of pocket, $500 a month, 10 years, 35.9% return. And here's one in Mississippi, $9,000 out of pocket. My friends, if you look carefully, you will see this is a single wide manufactured home. And on one end, it looks like they heated up the grill a little too close to the vinyl siding. It's all melty looking right there. This one scared me, but this one is in my program. $300 a month for 10 years. And that's a almost 32% return. Yep. And they're paying. Okay. Remember that flip? For about the same money as you could put into the flip, you could buy all 12 of the houses I just showed you. And you would make not $50,000, but like $85,000, 1.5 times the income Not this year in 11 months, but every year for the next 10 years. Here's what it looks like. The flip was $197,000. You remember that? And $50,000 profit. That's a 25% annualized return on investment. Not bad. For the rental, I took the loan out of it. And so in order to spend the same amount of money, $200,000. So that's rental times two. You have two of those rental properties. They should make you $18,000 a year, and that's a 9% return. Not bad. And rentals also have another advantage, or several advantages when it comes to taxation. So keep that in mind. Those returns don't need to be as high. Now, here's the Bohr method. Bohr times 12, $199,585 outlay to buy all 12 of the properties that I just showed you. Sadly, since I prepared this at the beginning of February, I think every one of those properties is now sold and gone. But if you could have bought them, you would make a projected $85,000 a year, and that's a 42% return on your investment. So let me ask you this. If you could put $200,000 into something and make $85,000 for the next 10 years, what would you end up making over that 10-year period? Yeah, you can do that math. And I ask you this, if you just took like 40,000 of that, maybe try to squeak by on 45 or 50,000 a year, or just use that as supplemental income or vacation money or whatever, and take 40,000 and put back into buying more properties, and you buy another 1 or 2 or 3 of these properties every year, you see how you can grow this baby? Right. Okay. Now, in order for me to get my brain fully wrapped around it, I've got to get my nerd on, and that means I'm probably creating a spreadsheet. I was even accused one time back when I was single of analyzing girlfriends and potential girlfriends on a spreadsheet. I had not done that, but when I was accused of it, I thought, that's a pretty great idea. And I started writing the algorithm, but I never did do that. Anyway, I like spreadsheets for a lot of things, and I write a lot of spreadsheets. So I wrote one to analyze these properties. Now, I know that you may not be able to see that real well, but lean in and squint, and you'll see that column B is FM rent. That stands for fair market rent. That's one of the more important columns on this in this entire spreadsheet. The first thing I do when I have a property, and you see that first one there is in Flint, Michigan. The first thing I do is I look for the fair market rent. In other words, what are rehabbed houses in good condition going for in that neighborhood? And in that little area there in Flint, Michigan, it's $500 a month. Okay, that's an important number. And then, of course, I fill in, what I'm actually paying for the property and so forth. And then I'm zooming in here because I want you to see these important columns when I'm kind of figuring what we're going to do with the property. Down payment to sell, the monthly payment, and the term. I make this up. I make it up based on giving them a payment that is way better than their rent. A real savings, in this case, $350. So imagine the people driving down the road now, and they're looking at the properties. They say, oh, there's one over there. That's, what is that, $425 a month? That one's $575 a month, and that one's $525 a month, and that one's $500 a month, and $350. Oh, wait, that sign says we can own this house, and it's $350 a month. We just got to fix it up. That's why the phone rings off the hook. We are selling to people who are making decisions based on the monthly payment. And this monthly payment is less than their rent, and we make the payment terms short enough that it's about the same as if they finance a car. A lot of people finance cars for 7 years these days. How about 7 years and you own a house? Not bad. So people love this. A lot of people watch HGTV, and a lot of people that buy these houses are in the trades, and they know how to fix things. They know how to work with their hands, and they dream of having their own fixer-upper. And they're buying these houses. When we put that sign in the yard that says for sale by owner, seller financing, $2,000 down, $350 a month, 7 years, and it's yours. Put the phone number there, phone rings off the hook. It happens. All right. So this works out to a 30.13 annualized return. That's the average annual return. And so I will kind of play with these numbers. Maybe I'll add a year or subtract a year or whatever I have to do to get to where I want to be, to make sure that we're getting, somewhere around 25 to 30% return on these properties. Now, sometimes we have unexpected costs. I had closing on a property today. The closing costs were very high. It was because of local regulations and things that we couldn't really anticipate. And so that cuts into the profit a little bit. Oh man, instead of making 30%, we're going to make 26%. Can you live with that? Yeah, I can. All right. So I want to remind you that in the Bohr method, since we're not renting these houses, we're not dealing with tenants or termites or toilets or taxes or rehabs or repairs or even rents. We're selling these houses as is. I don't know if a lot of you have joined since we started, but at the beginning of the at beginning of this, I had the camera trained on my license tag wall. In fact, I'm just going to switch over to that camera right now and let you see. See the license tag wall? That I put up a license tag for every state that where I've bought one of these houses. And so you can see right there's 25 states, and we're on our way to maybe getting to 35. There are some states I really don't intend to ever buy in, but we'll come back over to this camera now. And so what we're doing is I'm not traveling to all these states. I don't go out and look at them. I'm buying them from auction sites. And I don't mind telling you, I don't have any real big secrets here. I buy them from auction.com, Xome.com, that's XOME.com, HudsonandMarshall.com, RealtyTrack, and a few others occasionally, but mostly auction.com and Xome.com. We buy these houses as is based on the pictures that are on that website, believe it or not. And then we sell them as is to someone in the local community who loves the idea of a fixer-upper and their payments less than rent. And, you know, what happens if they get to where they can't pay this payment? What are they going to do? There's not a lot else they can go to because they can't rent anything like this for this amount of money. So we have a pretty low default rate. In fact, I've been doing this for a year and a half, and we've done 80 of these properties. We haven't had a default yet, but we do expect there to be some defaults along the way. And my mentor tells me he has about a 5% default rate. And I'll introduce him to you in just a few minutes. He's not going to be on the call, but I'll tell you all about him. So they're going to repair the property and they're going to maintain the property. And we're not going to get calls about toilets in the middle of the night or Saturday night at 9 p.m. I'm not going to get a call that says, hey, my ice maker broke. Can you come over here and fix it? That happened to me on a rental one. That's one time. That's not going to happen. It hasn't happened. All right. So here's the thing. And this is why we are talking. Well, I'm talking. You might be talking there, but I can't hear you. But here's why we're having this little conversation here. I can find a lot of these houses. I can find a lot more than I can afford to buy. In fact, I know I can find 20 a week like this because of some resources I have access to. I'm in a VIP program with these auction houses. And yeah, it was a little hard to get into, but I'm in it. And because of that, I have some access and I can find a lot of these houses. Well, one day I was telling Eric, my friend, you know, I can't take any this week. I'm kind of out of money. And the guy sitting in the office next to me had been paying attention to what I was doing. And he leaned over and said, hey, I'll take a few if you'll sell them to me. I said, well, I have to close in my entity because that's what got approved for the VIP program. But if you let me make a few $1,000s on each one, sure. He said, yeah, the numbers still work even if you make a few $1,000s. So I got to thinking, business opportunity, always evaluating, keep your eyes open. Opportunities are everywhere. Some of you have probably heard me say that. And so I decided that I would put together a buyer's list. Awesome. So I've got a little bit of a mailing list and I sent out to the mailing list, told them what I was doing, said, who wants to be on my list? 142 people signed up and said, yes, that's awesome. So I went out and put 15 properties under contract and I thought to myself, I'm going to make some money. I'm going to make some money right here, like in the next 30 to 45 days, except nobody on the buyer's list bought any of the properties. The buyer's list didn't work. And the reason is, and I thought about it a little bit, and just to be fair, I know that when I first started looking at these properties, it took me 3 months to pull the trigger, and I'm not particularly risk averse. I'm willing to take a flyer and try something, but still, it took me 3 months to buy the first house because I'd bought properties in Georgia and South Carolina, but I'd only bought properties that I went to see first, and I had not done this. And so I understand the nervousness about that. But I also knew that I was now in trouble because I had 15 properties under contract and I hadn't been in the VIP program very long. And if you don't close, you get kicked out of the program. So I had to come up with $130,000 real quick. And that was a challenge. I didn't have it liquid, not all of it anyway. And I had some other things I had to do and bring some partners in and blah, 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 blah. And it was a little more exciting than I want. So the buyer's list is not going to work because I have to commit to the properties and I can't have tire kickers in the program. I've got to have serious buyers in the program. So actually, I just kind of dropped it for a little while. And then one day early last year, I had an idea. Why not a buyer's club? And I ran it past Eric, my friend and mentor. And he said, yeah, that's a great idea. I'll support you and help you. A lot of people could be buying these houses, but if they use your system, you could even make it easier for them. All right, that's great. So what we did, we formed the Flipping America Buyers Club. What is the Buyers Club? It's an exclusive club. In fact, it's so exclusive, I've only got room for 8 of you to join tonight. All right. After that, we're full for a few weeks until we're gradually ramping up the membership, and I can make sure that I have enough properties for everyone to have as many properties as they want to buy. And so we are placing these kind of arbitrary limits on how many can join. I've got 8 slots. After that, you go on a waiting list until probably another 45 days or so when we open it back up again. So we'll see what happens. We've got a private Facebook group. We're really just getting that off the ground. Lana is here now, and she is going to be taking over that group and really running it. And we do provide the training. I give you that spreadsheet that you just saw so you can do some analysis on your own. And I walk you through in a couple of training videos how I analyze properties and how I sell these properties. And then we provide resources. We have resources for the legal side, for the closings that you're going to need to do. We have resources on the selling side because that's ultimately what this is about, selling the property to someone in the community. And we have people on our team. Well, they're not really on my team. They don't work for me, except on a contract basis. And I'll just tell you, her name is Helen, and Helen has a friend named Emily. Helen and Emily are my sales team, and I pay them money to move these properties. I don't have time to answer all the phone calls that come off these properties, so I pay them. And they're so good at it that I offer their services to you, with their permission, of course, and you can hire them or not. If you want to do it yourself, that's fine. If you don't mind taking the calls and talking to people and negotiating your deals, that's fine. But if you want Helen and the salespeople to take over, they will sell the property for a portion of your down payment, the down payment that you receive from your buyer, okay? Don't have to pay them anything up front. Just have to, coordinate with them to cover the expenses to get the locks changed and the signs out there and that sort of thing. All that is explained to you on the inside. Now, here's probably the biggest thing about what this club is. This is not a training program. It's not a course. Yes, there is training involved, but it's not training where when you're done, I give you a pat on the back and here's your certificate of completion. Good luck. Get out there and go find some properties, and I wish you all the best. That's not what it is. I'm finding the properties. I'm getting the deals, and I will get the deals for you. It's almost like a done-for-you service. That's what you're joining. Why would you join? Because we're going to find the houses, and we're going to show you what to do with them, and we're going to give you the resources you need. And if you buy at least one house per year, your membership is free. I'm not interested in the membership money. I only charge a membership fee to join the club just to separate the tire kickers from the serious buyers. If you will pay to join this club, I know you're serious. So when you buy your first house, I will credit your club membership, all of it, right back to you. I don't know what could be a better arrangement than that for you. You get all the training and get the access, you get the properties, and it ends up being free. All I want to do is make $3,000 per property. Full disclosure, I make $3,000 per property. If I get a great deal, I don't mark it up $5,000 or $6,000 because I can. I mark it up $3,000 because I said I would. Okay? Every property gets marked up $3,000. Whatever my cost is, it's plus $3,000. That means that you as a buyer, you've got some other costs that are kind of baked into our agreement. You're going to pay for the closing costs. It has to close in my entity, And then there's another closing from my entity to your entity. That's about to change. I've bought so many of them now that the auction houses are letting me create a one-off entity, and I can close in that entity. And then instead of doing another closing, I'll just sell you that entity that owns that property. And that's going to save money and a lot of time. I'm real excited about that. We're working up the legal agreements on that. It should be in place in the next 30 days. And so that's going to be really good. But we're going to give you the resources you need, and your membership is free if you buy one house. But the number one reason for joining this club is, are you ready for this? Drum roll. I'm going to give you my cell phone number. I don't give my cell phone number out. You know, I'm a powerful, influential member of the media, and millions of people listen to my show. I can't give my cell phone number out, but I will give it to members of this club. And it's not a temporary phone number that I'm going to throw away one of these days. It's the cell phone number that I've had for the last 15 years. And you will have my number, and you can ask me whatever you want whenever you have a problem, an issue, a need. I think there are some club members that are on the call. They will assent to this. They will tell you, I answer my text messages. I don't always answer the phone because I'm involved in a lot of things with the show and everything, but I always get back to you. I always answer the questions, and I will follow up because you are a priority for me if you're a member of my club. Okay? So, refreshing your memory on the resources: marketing, legal, fulfillment when the time comes and you need somebody to handle collection of payments so you can remain Dodd-Frank compliant. All that conversation is on the inside of the club. Insurance when you need it. I have a relationship with a national insurance carrier that can cover us in all 50 states. They understand what we're doing. They know what kind of coverage you need. And I basically get liability coverage on these properties. I don't cover the dwelling because, well, I can't get in there and install smoke detectors and so forth before I turn the power on. I'm not even turning the power on. I'm rolling the dice on the structure and covering myself for liability, which is where my biggest exposure is. And I could do that for $10 to $15 a month per property with this company, and I'll introduce you to them. All right? The training, as I've already mentioned. Here's a word from a club member. Basically, Josh says, I bought 3 houses so far, and well, this was actually last year now. Probably need to update. 2 so far in 2020. He's happy to report that he's getting consistent positive cash flow on his investment. We had a little adventure with his very first one, but these little adventures, some people would call them problems, or some people call them challenges. We call them adventures. There are adventures in whatever you're going to do with life, but once we get somebody in the property and get it stabilized, then it just runs like clockwork. Here are the downsides to this whole thing. The house itself could be a bust. I've already told you that I'm only buying looking at pictures. And I may buy one that is a disaster, and we have to end up donating it to the fire department for, you know, the local fire department for them to practice on. I've done that with 2 houses so far out of the 80. And I talked to Eric about this, and he's running about 5%. He needs the tax write-off anyway, so he doesn't really care. He buys 1,000 houses a year, and about 20 of them go bad. and can't use, and sometimes he buys properties that are bad on purpose because he needs the write-off. So the house could be a bust, and I'm going to look you in the eye the best I can through a camera, and I'm going to tell you, if losing 20,000 would ruin you, don't join this club. This is the biggest risk. It doesn't happen often, but it's happened a couple of times. We've had a few other times where the properties were more damaged than we thought. Hole in the roof, water damage inside, and we had to discount. And oh me, oh my, we're only making 15%, 18% return on investment on those properties. Oh well, we can live with that. People can be a problem. Wherever there are people, there are problems. Sometimes people just have problems, you know? And sometimes people are the problem because there's something lacking in their character or discipline or habits or whatever. But people can be a problem. But I'm happy to report to you that my people problems in the Bohr houses is far less, far less, really far less than my rental houses. It is amazing. You see the smile on my face? I am really happy with the problems that I have from the people in the Bohr houses because, yeah, I don't get any of those late night maintenance phone calls. We had some things in the pandemic where some people lost their jobs and They struggled for a little bit, but everybody is back on track except for one. So, yeah, the people can be a problem, and you can't minimize that, but it is fewer problems than I have with renters. It's not completely passive. You have to spend 15 or 20 minutes analyzing a property, and then you have to spend a few minutes each month counting your money. Yeah, so it's not completely passive, and you have to have the cash. That may be the biggest downside. You got to be able to put together 15, 18, 20,000, $22,000 to buy one of these houses, and you need to be content to let it take 18 months or so before you recapture that capital, and then after that it's all free cash flow. So those are your downsides, and here is my mentor, Eric Tomasi. He's been at this now for 14 years. He's bought 11,000 houses. He's done so much business that he's on the advisory board of auction.com, Zome.com, and hudsonandmarshall.com. He helps shape many of the things that they do by telling them what people like us really need and want out there. He created the VIP program that I'm in, and it's a privilege for me to be in it. There are only 15 people in it nationwide. And he doesn't want to grow it because he told me he doesn't like people that much. But he is willing to, put up with a few of us long enough to, make some money. And between the 15 or so people, we give him quite a bit of volume. He taught me this business, and he had to reteach me because it was difficult for me to set aside some of my normal real estate habits at first. But he is standing by to help me teach you. Now, he doesn't want you to reach out to him. You're in my club, not his. But if you come to me with a problem that I can't solve, he is available to me, and he knows the answer because he has seen this. He will do it. He will take the time to talk to me, and we'll get your help. Okay, sorry about that. What does it take to belong to this club? It's $1,000 a year. For everything that I've been talking about, the resources and the training and the deal flow and everything, it's $1,000 a year, and I'm going to give you that $1,000 back when you purchase your first house each year. So, you won't be out $1,000 next year either. Just buy a house and you get that $1,000 back. So you buy one house and your membership is free. I don't know how I can make this any more attractive for you. There it is. Here's why you need us. Eric and I have access to deals that you're not going to see. Now, it's all public, but those auction sites are a little bit more challenging to navigate than the resources we have. You see, we get a spreadsheet each week of all of the deals on all of the platforms, and we can sort that sheet by bids and locations and that sort of thing. And we know exactly where to look, and we know by, Monday morning what we're bidding on this week. We've narrowed it down to, maybe 200 properties that we're looking for certain criteria, and we're ready to roll. We can find these deals. And the other thing is we get offered some things sometimes from sellers that before they even put them on the auction site, they just call us up and say, hey, we got 30 properties or 15 properties. Do you think your club members can take them down? Eric will almost always say yes. And then he puts them out to his club, and then maybe I'll jump on it or maybe not. Depends on the numbers. I've created a system around this. What we're doing with the idea of the unique LLC and swapping it out, no one else is doing that. It's taken a while to get that together. It's taken a while for me to get the okay from the auction houses. And so we've got this system, and we've got resources like Helen and Emily to help sell your houses. And we have answers to questions. Fact is, I've pretty much told you the entire business model and where I go get these houses. You probably could do this yourself, except you'd be on an island out there, and there would probably be some questions that inevitably you wouldn't know how to answer. And that's when you would wish you had joined the club. David Yon says, thank you so much for all your assistance and support. You're truly a mentor, and I hope to continue to learn from you. And Helen is amazing. She is amazing. And so is Emily. Emily is relatively new to the team, but we brought Emily onto the team because she is my #1 realtor in the state of Tennessee. And she is fantastic at what she does. She knows the business, and she's personable and good at this. This is the link to join the club, bit.ly/buyers club. This is the moment where you take a screenshot, and you can go, or you can, just copy that to your browser right now, and you can join. I wanted to show you what happens when you join. You're going to go to a page like this on my website where you have an opportunity to spend $1,000. You add one to the cart. Now, when you add one to the cart, it's not going to change anything, and it's going to kind of look the same here. There's a weird thing with WooCommerce on our website, but once you've done that, just go to the cart and you'll see that it's there. Make sure you're only buying one, not two. Okay, you just need one. If you're a husband and wife team or a mother-daughter team, you just need one. All right. One membership per entity or per family is good enough. I just need to know I've got somebody on the other side that is serious about this. Now, when you do sign up, you're going to put an email address in, and that's the email address the system is going to use. Please, 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 please use the email address that you want to get these properties. When we send the mail out to you and the property list, it's going to come to that automatically. We can change it, but you can imagine what it's like if we get dozens or multiple dozens of requests. Hey, I've changed my email address. Would you change it? Please just use the email address that you want, and then we'll be good, right? Because you're going to start getting emails automatically starting tonight as soon as you join. And then you're going to get an email from me periodically about once a week with the new properties that we have under contract. And actually, if I pick up properties more than once in a week, this has happened a few times, whenever I get a property under contract, I'll probably fire off an email about that. Now, we're exploring ways to improve that system, but that's all I'm going to say for now because that is what we're doing. So you'll get emails from me with the properties and also automatic emails for the next 3 days with links to training videos, okay? Oh, there it is. This is what happens next. And then one of those emails you're going to get, you'll have my cell phone number, and you're going to get the club mailings, and then you go and join the Facebook group, and we'll let you in, okay? I want to wrap it up with this. What if you could provide affordable housing and really help people, and we have some great stories to tell, while realizing great cash flow and making phenomenal return on investment? I never do know which story I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you the one from Toledo tonight. This is a young couple that bought a house. Actually, one of my students in my mentoring program, Eric Goebel, bought this house from me in Toledo, Ohio. And he called me up a couple weeks later and he said, I got to tell you the story, Raj. I said, okay. He said, I was moving this young couple in and we were meeting, going over the paperwork, and I reached out to hand him the keys, and this lady started crying. I mean, sobbing. And she had a baby in her arms, and she was about to have another baby any minute now. And I asked her, what's wrong? She said, oh, these are tears of joy. When this baby was born, the one that she was holding, he had so many medical problems. We have such medical bills. We didn't think we were ever going to be able to afford a home. And now I'm standing here and we're about to move into our house. This is so exciting. Well, that's good. And Eric was excited to be a part of that story. And as he told me, I realized I had a little bitty part in that story, and I was glad to have that part. I've had that little bitty part in a lot of really cool stories like that. Plus, we're making money. It is the greatest thing. We're doing good for people, and we're making money. So that's part of what really excites me about this and why I'm excited to share it with you. All right. There's your link again, bit.ly FA Buyers Club. You got to put the / in there, FA Buyers Club. Go to that link. You can join right now while I'm doing Q&A. I'm going to go back here to the main camera, and I'm going to look at your questions over here. I've got one question. I haven't seen anything in the chat. You guys aren't chatting with each other. That's fine. I've got one question in the Q&A. If you buy 3 properties in 1 year, does that credit apply for multiple years? No, it doesn't work that way. I have never even thought about that, but it all works out the same anyway. I'm making $3,000 per property. You're paying $1,000 to join the club. I'm crediting $1,000 back to you on the first property, but I still have the $1,000. I'm only making $2,000 on the first one I sell you. Y'all follow that? Now, this is a question no one asked yet, but I will tell you why I settled on $1,000. First of all, if you're serious about buying these houses and you've got enough money to buy one of these houses, $1,000 is nothing. Okay? But here's the other thing. Remember I told you the story about the buyers list, and I had, these 15 properties under contract, and I needed $130,000. I had 142 people on the buyers list. If I had had $1,000 from each one of them, I could have closed, no problem. And everything would have been fine, stress-free. So that's the other reason I get $1,000 from you is that way I can put properties under contract with confidence, knowing that even if my cash is out there, I'm involved in some flips here and there, and my own Bohr houses. If my cash is occupied at the moment, I still have the cash to close because of your membership money. Okay. No, I meant to answer that live. Any other questions that you have for me? I will stay here and answer all of your questions. Hey, Karen, are you feeling up to sharing with the group tonight? I'm going to just unmute you. Karen Whalen is here, and she is a member of the club. And I'm looking to see if anybody else in the group is a member of the club and has bought a house. I think you're it, Karen. Hey, how you doing? All right. Oh, well, I hear that the weather in Atlanta was great today too, but I've been in this studio all day shooting video, so I didn't get to enjoy any of it. But all right. So I am putting you on the spot a little bit here, but you have shared this with me before, so I figured you wouldn't mind. Tell us about your experience in the club and the property you bought. Yeah, 30. Yeah, you should be. Because I think that those numbers are better than the numbers that I put on the original thing, right? On the original spreadsheet. Um, we have a question. What is the average time it takes to occupy? What was your experience? And how long did it take you to sell Cahokia? Okay. So you started out real high. Okay. Um, in my experience, it usually is a couple of weeks, but we've had a slow couple of months. We've had a lot of bad weather up north where most of these properties are located. And so I've got 6 or 8 properties that I've had since the end of November that are still kind of sitting there waiting for the weather to clear out enough. So it's hard for me to say the average, but once the weather is right, and once we have the price right on the house, they go pretty fast. I've had them. That first house I showed you in Deepwater, West Virginia, it may have spoiled me a little bit. I put the sign up and we sold it the next day. But I've had that happen half a dozen times. We put the sign up and sold it the next day. I've also had some that take a few weeks. I wish I could give you a more precise answer, but that's what we got. Yeah, yeah, that's good. All right. Well, thank you, Karen. And we appreciate you, and we appreciate all of you joining us tonight. And I will be back next Tuesday night, depending on how many of you join. If we get 8 tonight, we'll have to evaluate whether we can even take any more new members next week. And but if we have some space, I'll be here again next Tuesday night. All right. In the meantime, everybody, have a great evening, and we'll talk to you very soon. We've got a little going off music for you tonight.